So then what are you most curious about recently?
Oh, I love that question. That's a great question. I've been working so much, I haven't had time to think about like very much of anything. What am I most curious about? I mean, I guess like the thing that weighs on me intellectually is like the taken to its extreme populism, right? Like the rise of populism, of which Black Lives Matter, QAnon, Capitol riots, WallStreetBets are all a product, right? The rise of populism and the ability of the proletariat, right? You know, the masses to take collective action is very interesting to me, and I don't know if I know where it's going to take us. And I'm not convinced yet if I am for it or against it. There's part of me that's terrified of it, and there's part of me that appreciates it.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way too. I don't know yet.
I don't want our world to be run by idiots, the lowest common intellectual denominator. But I also understand and appreciate why they feel like they need to rise up, and I think they have legitimate grievances, and so I totally understand these actions, right? I mean, it's like people are like, oh, Black Lives Matter. It's like, it's like why take to the streets sometimes violently, right? People are like, oh, that's wrong. But I don't know if I agree with that it's wrong. Like if people feel like they have been so ostracized and kind of subjugated by those in power that they need to throw Molotov cocktails at buildings because our system is broken, and that's the only way that they know that they can be heard or feel that they can be heard
to express their voice.
I think it's probably incumbent upon them as like people who are trying to take back their own agency to throw Molotov cocktails. Good for them, It's like if you felt like that, like if I felt like that, yeah, I'd take action too, right? And so like I don't fault them for doing that. I mean, good for them. I mean, why not? But I apply the same heuristic to the Capitol rioters. If you honestly felt like the election was stolen, perhaps like wrongly. And again, this goes back to education. See, it's like if you thought in your ignorance that the election had been stolen, right? Like, and that democracy was being torn asunder by Joe Biden and Congress, like you might march on Congress too. In fact, isn't it your duty as a good citizen to march on Congress, right? So like I actually understand it. Like I don't agree with it, but I understand it. And I'm saying, okay, yeah, if like I really thought that's what was going on, like, yeah, I might have done that. That makes sense. Good for them. At least they're consistent with their own beliefs, And so I like to see people who are consistent with their own beliefs. If you're saying like, this is unacceptable, like, the democracy is under threat, or my people are being shot in the streets by police officers, really, carte blanche, and we need to do something. No one's doing anything about it. Like, yeah, it's kind of your duty as a human being to take action against that type of systemic oppression, right? The systematic oppression of these people. So, I understand all that, and I appreciate it. Now, that said, do I want to see these people like take power and have their way? No, that's terrifying. So what we need reasonable leaders who understand how to affect change on behalf of these marginalized groups.
What statement do you believe is more accurate? That the world is just all chaos and we're all just trying to figure it out? Or there are people at the top that control how the world runs?
Oh, it's definitely the former. I really believe it's the former, because here's the thing. When you're at the bottom, you think that everything at the top is like a highly intentional, mechanistic, Machiavellian design constructed to keep you down, right? And I would agree that the way it's designed does keep people down. But there's no, I can tell you there's no Machiavellian design at the top. It's just people trying to look out for their own self-interest. And in the process of doing so, there are winners and there are losers, right? It's not like people are getting together in a room, right, and saying, like, oh, like we're going to keep these people down because we want to keep power. It's not that intentional. Now that does happen, but it's more incidental than that. It's like, it really looks more like this. Our quarterly earnings like were horrible this quarter. We have to get them up. So we have to shift marketing dollars to this group because that's our core customer base. And now all of a sudden I'm making the Black community fat by investing, more dollars and driving, traffic in those communities to McDonald's, right? I haven't designed it so that like I'm trying to make these people fat, by marketing. If I'm McDonald's, no, I just know that they're going to buy my product and I got to get my quarterly statements up. So the intention is very different at the top than it is at the bottom. At the bottom, they see these people are engineering it this way. Well, yes, but not because they want to keep you down, but just because like that's the reality we're working with, So, and having seen how it works at the top, it's not always, now sometimes it is, but in most cases it's not that intentional, right? It just happens that way, And like the people at the top, they're trying to figure it out too. And like, once you have a little,
because they're also humans too.
Yeah, they're humans. And like, and once you have a little, you try to keep your little. And once you have a lot, you try to keep your lot,
Yeah.
And like, that's the end of it. It's not like you're saying, oh, it's like, I got to put these people down. No, you're just trying to keep what you have, just like everybody else. The problem is like, because you have this much, these people have less, right? And so these people think you're actively working against them. You're not actively working against them. You're just working for yourself. So in network theory and complex systems theory, there's something called preferential attachment. And preferential attachment is, pretty much just the law of nature. The things that start accumulating more things tend to accumulate more things at a more rapid rate than other things, right? It's just like gravity.
So it's like compounding?
Yeah, it's like, but it's more like gravity, right? So it's like, if this has, if these two objects suddenly come together, now they have a stronger gravitational mass than this object, right? So, but now because they can take more naturally than like this guy floating alone over here. But every time they take another thing, this guy has a lower probability of getting anything, right? It's nature, scarcity, preferential attachment happens in nature naturally. So it's like, can we as a society overcome that? Like, if it happens in nature, maybe we can't, or maybe because we're humans and we can actually control nature to some degree, maybe we can.